If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Belly up to the bar, we've kept you a seat, and it's great to see you back. Flak Bait is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right. Oh, wait, how would you know if the lava lamp is in fact lighted? Oh, unless you were watching live on... Oh, that's right. You can watch it. You can listen to it on SHRmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny. If you want to watch it, go to the SHR Media Facebook page. Into your favorite search engine. There you go. Or you can go to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Enter in SHR Media, and you'll find it there. So 2 buttery ways of watching the Berserk Bobcat Saloon tonight. And I suspect it's going to be a pretty damn good show. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask, one little teensy-weensy thing, all that we ask is that you flush the damn toilet. Jiggle the handle. Don't forget, I'm watching you. Don't forget to tip your waitress. I notice, she notices, everyone notices. Trust me. Well, the news of the hour, the news of the day. 2 things. Number 1, this is sort of author week on the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, because coming up in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to have thriller author Matthew Betley on the phone. We're going to have a little chat with him about his books and whatever the hell just happens to pop into our damned heads, which in the saloon could be just about anything. But first, this just in. And I'm sure lots of folks are going to tell you exactly what to think about this. You know, there was this thing called an election in Alabama, and it's an election with Doug Jones and Judge Roy Moore. And basically, it's a non-standard election because the purpose of it was to fill the seat, the senatorial seat, vacated by Jeff Sessions. When he was appointed Attorney General by President Trump, that position was open, so they had to hold a special election. If any of you just happened to wash in from Taiwan or were in a small boat called the Kon-Tiki in the 1950s and you hadn't known what was going on, well, it turns out that the upset has occurred, and boy, the places this is going to go. It's like a Dr. Seuss novel. Well, first, this in. Alabama Senate results, Democrat Doug Jones declared winner over Roy Moore. Democrat Doug Jones has won the special election. to fill a Senate seat in Alabama, according to exit polls and returns, a shocking upset in a solidly Republican state in which massive turnout among African American voters helped defeat a candidate enthusiastically backed by President Trump. Jones became the first Democrat elected to the Senate from Alabama since 1992. The Senate seat came open, just as I told you, when Trump chose Jeff Sessions. Now, there are some interesting things that are going to happen here, and some interesting things that aren't. One of them is they're not going to have Judge Roy Moore walk into the Senate, and all of a sudden Mitch McConnell, the leader, is going to say, I think we need to begin an ethics investigation on you, sir. That's not going to happen. But what it does do is it puts the Senate a really precarious position now, because they have one vote ahead of the Democrats in the Senate. That's unique. Hey, welcome to Mike in chat. Welcome to Mary Brockman in chat. Welcome to one viewer in chat. It's good to see you here. And so this is going to... Now, the question is, I guess, will the Democrats all of a sudden begin to crow about, look how we kicked the butts out of you Republicans, you GOPers. Look how we kicked you in the other special election that we had, and 2 other elections that would have gone to somebody in blue anyway. So is this, I ask you, is this nothing more than the continuous thump of a bad Democrat tire over the highway of the political process? Or is something that, in 2 more years, because it's a Senate seat, senators have 6 years, representatives have 2. So this seat is going to come open again in 2020. Will there be a reverse in course? Don't know. Really don't know. Now, there are a massive amount of elections that are going to be coming up next year. But wait, what happens in 2020? November. Oh, that's right. Another presidential election. Won't these things be interesting? Now, because of the numbers in the Senate, you're going to have to really figure out, Mitch, just how good a Republican you're going to be and just what it is that you'll stand or fall for, sir. Because the little lead that you at one time enjoyed, it's not quite there anymore. So, as we know, Democrats are going to be crowing about this all night and all day tomorrow, and you can expect the NBC, CNN, MSNBC, CBC, and all the other alphabet agencies to go cock-a-doodle-doo. Isn't that great? We got Doug Moore in there, and that's going to be a wonderful thing. Well, I'm not so sure. Tell you what we are going to do. We got a couple of more minutes before Matt calls in.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, what the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass f- So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
And I want to start off with what I consider to be some happy stories and good times. Because the first lead story is pretty happy if you kind of look at it in sort of a jaundiced way.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
And what is it? Well, there's a particular article that Glenn Greenwald wrote at The Intercept. And if you're not reading The Intercept, it's certainly worth your time. TheIntercept.com. And the article goes like this. The headline, the most... And again, I have to say, all right, I'm biased. For God's sakes, give me a damn break. The U.S. media suffered its most humiliating debacle in ages and now refuses all transparency over what really happened. Oh, really? Do you think there's fake news? Just like we found out, I think it's a week and a half ago, that there is such a thing called fake law when SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, decided that they were going to overturn Trump's travel ban and say, you know what? Trump, until we have the actual hearing, yeah, your travel ban will be in place. And 4th District and 9th District, basically temporarily, at least, you can both go to hell. So this article starts out, Friday was one of the most embarrassing days for the U.S. media in quite a long time. The humiliation orgy. I'm going to like that. The humiliation orgy was kicked off by CNN with MSNBC and CBS close behind, and countless pundits, commentators, and operatives joining the party throughout the day. By the end of the day, it was clear that several of the nation's largest and most influential news outlets had spread an explosive but completely false news story to millions of people while refusing to provide any explanation of how it happened. Now, is that shocking? Am I shocked? Are you shocked? Let's pause 1 second for consideration of shock. Okay, that's enough. The spectacle began Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time when the most trusted name in news, that's a trademark, spent 12 straight minutes on air flamboyantly hyping an exclusive bombshell report that seemed to prove that WikiLeaks last September had secretly offered the Trump campaign, even Donald Trump himself, special access to the Democratic National Committee emails before they were published on the internet. As CNN sees the world, this would prove once and for all collusion between the Trump family and WikiLeaks, and more importantly, between Trump and Russia, since the U.S. intelligence community regards WikiLeaks as an arm of Russian intelligence, as you well know. And therefore, so does the U.S. media. The entire revelation was based on an email that CNN strongly implied it had exclusively obtained and had in its possession. The email was sent by somebody named Michael J. Erickson, somebody nobody had ever heard of previously and whom CNN could not identify, to Donald Trump Jr., offering a decryption key and access to DNC emails that WikiLeaks had, quote, uploaded. The email was a smoking gun in CNN's extremely excited mind because it was dated September 4th, 10 days before WikiLeaks began promoting access to those emails online, and thus that proved that the Trump family was being offered special, unique access to the DNC archive, likely by WikiLeaks, and by dint of that, the Kremlin. There you go. That's all the damn proof you need. Right? It's impossible to convey with words what a spectacularly devastating scoop CNN believed it had, so it's necessary, and if I had the time, I'd let you watch it, to hear the tone of excitement, breathlessness, and gravity the network conveyed as they clearly believed they were delivering a near-fatal blow on the Trump collusion story. But, however, that having been said, I told you that tonight we were going to be having a very special guest in the saloon, and it's certainly worth interrupting everything for. I told you that tonight, excuse me, we have the honor of speaking to a great, relatively new author, and his name is Matthew Betley, and he has 2 outstanding books to his name. And he has somehow managed to kick sand into the eyes of thriller writers all across the fruited plain and around the planet. So his journey to this point is a voyage. It's a path that a number of us have trod. When you take a human being and place them into basically what I could call conditions red and orange for entirely too long a time. And when this happens, there are going to be consequences. Now, some of you may be thinking, Self, BZ, what the hell are you talking about? Well, give me time. Now, Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman, in his book on combat, says people can be broken down into sheep wolves and sheepdogs. And it's no surprise to the people that listen to the show that I've been a sheepdog for 41 years. I still am. And as I suspect with Matthew, everything was over the top. Fast cars, get to the scene, at least for me, find the suspect, go to the next call, on to the next case, and we'll get to that. So for many years, I've read prodigiously in the thriller genre, and our guest, who is on the line, Matthew Betley, is a tried and tested sheepdog, whom I tell you that I truly respect. Somehow, I think it is that the damaged can recognize the damaged. Matthew Betley is, in fact, an honorable man. He's honed in the crucible of pressure, devotion, courage, and duty. I could read his CV from MATTHEWBETLEY.com. And if you want to find out all about him, he is at, let me repeat this, MATTHEWBETLEY.com. Very simple. He's on Twitter, at Matthew Betley, Betley. And your CV is rather long, but rather than do that, I just finally say that, you know what? So many questions, so little time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome thriller author Matthew Betley to the saloon tonight. Good evening, sir, and thanks for staying up so damn late tonight, right off the top. I noticed we share two scenes after reading you, Ohio and Quantico. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Matthew Betley.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be on, and I've just been watching the Alabama fun while I was keeping myself awake.
Fun. Oh, yes, fun. Just an arseload of fun on that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, it's kind of entertaining because in today's day and age, I define politics as the absence of all morality in leadership and decision making, and you know, you have to kind of like check your principles at the door. You know, when you play politics these days, these are very wild and crazy times for sure.
Yeah, if you want to have anything to do with hyperbole, basically all you need to do is to go to a news channel, and you've got the hyperbole channel 24/7.
Well, and then of course it's fed through the social media. You know, God. Like Twitter being the Wild West of all social media.
It is. You and I have seen just about anything and everything that we can possibly imagine. Now, Matt, You've written 2 novels for Atria Books. You've written Overwatch, and that was, published in March of last year. And
March of 2016.
Your newest book is Oath of Honor, and that was published in March of this year. And both of them feature your protagonist, who is Logan West. But I'm not going to go with the obvious first question. My first question is this. Hey, Matt, Bengals or Browns? And why do the Browns uniforms suck so much? Jesus Christ, why is that?
Well, that's Cleveland for you. But no, I'm a Bengals guy since I grew up in Cincinnati. However, you know, I don't know if you saw, I wrote an editorial that went national about the kneeling controversy. I wrote it probably 6-7 weeks ago.
I missed it.
It's been a bit of a blur. Yeah, I wrote I know a bunch of guys over at the Weekly Standard, and they know my background. They know I'm a huge Bengals fan, a former Marine officer, and so I was just chatting with these guys, and they said, hey, and Steve Hayes said, hey, do you want to? And he's the editor over he's actually the editor in chief over there now, and he said, do you want to write an article? And I did. If you Google Matthew Betley, to kneel or not to kneel, it got picked up. It went kind of national. It got republished in a number of outlets. And so my whole position was I actually took a step back and didn't engage in my normal flame-throwing hyperbole about issues like this, which I can do. You know, even I can get sucked into it like anybody.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so I would urge people to check out that piece. And my whole point, though, is that, okay, someone's got to be an adult in the room, because I can't pretend to know what it's like to be like a young black man growing up in the hood, overcoming obstacle after obstacle to get to the NFL, just like, an NFL player might not be able to relate to what it's like to be a recovering alcoholic or a former Marine officer.
Exactly.
So my point was that both sides should maybe try and come together and have a conversation. But, of course, Roger Goodell, being the infinite, incompetent leader that he is, he never stepped up and led the situation. So it continues to fester into what it is today. And I finally actually canceled my NFL DirecTV subscription like 4 weeks ago, and I stopped watching the season. It's painful because I am a lifelong Cincinnati Bengals fan for 39 years. My family actually owned the practice field, and so this is like the first time. Yeah, it's been a very, but I squarely place the blame on the shoulders of Roger Goodell and the NFL, the way they have absolutely mismanaged this situation. In fact, it's a prime example of what happens in the absence the absence of leadership in the vacuum that's created. It's just crazy.
Well, it's the absence of
That's my little pedestal for the moment.
It's the absence of leadership, yeah, but it's the absence of actual adults in the room. There need to be adults in the room every once in a while. Now, I got to admit, I'm biased. I'm a Packer guy, but like you, I decided that I was going to unplug. I didn't really have any of the NFL packages, but I decided, okay, screw it. I'm going to unplug, and I'd go to Hulu and a few other things like that right now, because I found on my Sundays, Thursdays, Monday nights, that kind of stuff, I'm doing other things. And I'm kind of liking the other things that I'm doing, and now I've kind of gotten into the habit of that. And I tell you what, with all the empty seats that I'm seeing in these stadiums, these bad boys are going to be hurting.
Yeah, but it may take a while. I mean, the NFL makes, I can't remember the exact number of billions of dollars that they make, but yes, it'll definitely hurt financially, for sure. It's just a matter of how long that takes to actually really make an impact on their bottom line.
I read that you're an amateur movie critic, and so I got I got you on that one. So I got to ask you, to date, so far in 2017, I don't know, maybe even in 2016 too, do you have a favorite movie so far?
Wind River is actually my favorite
Damn it,
movie.
Jim! Damn it! Get out of my head.
But I will also say that, we are in serious movie discussions, and I'll just leave it at that. And I've got a very major producer and a whole bunch of other folks, and we're trying to get something done, but it's too early to say anything at this point. Okay. Writing books is a crazy, crazy, crazy business, but getting a movie made is like a completely different universe. Believe me. Right. But hopefully we'll have some news in early 2018.
It's probably, if you watch that Showtime series, Get Shorty, it's probably going to be a little bit of Get Shorty, except for the dead bodies. But I had to tell you, I don't know if I screamed at you over the telephone or not. What I said to you is, get the hell out of my head, because that's exactly what I was going to say. My favorite movie of 2017 was Wind River, because of that, what's that director's guy? Taylor Sheridan. And
Taylor Sheridan, and it's produced by the same guys who produced Hell or High Water and Lone Survivor and Sicario.
And these are movies of really high reality, so I was kind of surprised. So having said that, and having dropped a little bit of an earworm on the saloon right now, I got to tell you, I think that your books would make one hell of a franchise, and if that's where you're aiming to go, then my props to you, sir.
Well, I like I said, there's actually a lot going on right now.
I believe you.
There's a lot I actually am not. I am expressly forbidden to talk about. But
I know.
It's funny that you would say that. So
I know, but
all
I'm saying,
rather than jinx myself, it's and we've been in the process that actually started even before my first book came out. I'm represented by creative artists. They got wind of the books from my literary agent. And this was, I want to say, probably 7 or 8 months before my first book even came out. And it's taken us this long to get to where we currently are in that process. And I'll just say we are very far down the road now, finally.
I'm not going to ask you any more about that. All I'm going to say is, in my estimation, it couldn't happen to a greater guy. And I greatly look forward to whatever unsaid things may or may not happen on down the line.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I do have to comment that the third book is actually coming out Memorial Day, Field of Valor. We just revealed the cover last week, and that drops 22 May, and I just started writing book 4 this weekend. for 2019.
Okay, well then that leads to this question, and that's, I read somewhere that you said that you were interested in doing a Logan West trilogy. Apparently that's not true, or have you changed genres or characters?
Oh, no. Logan West, it's going to be, we're into full series right now.
Okay.
Just a full series.
Okay, well, like I said, we're back to books now, so Logan... Is Logan West the you that you were, or is it the you that you could have been?
No, he's actually so it's really funny. My friends who know me, they find it highly entertaining, but I am straight up a combination of Logan West and John Quick, and day to day, I am John Quick, which is like sarcastic as all hell. Irreverent, self-deprecating, don't take myself seriously at all. But then if I get pissed off, that's the Logan West, the former Marine Scout Sniper Platoon commander, the former Marine weapons instructor. That's that side. Now, it's a lot harder to be that. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, they're just the two facets of my personality, and which is why these books are so fun to write.
I was going to do a little bit of an intro, a little bit of a further intro, and I have to admit up front, I'm not here to blow up your skirts, but I do like to talk to authors that I read, I specific read, and that I purchase, and that's a big difference. I've purchased both your books in hardback, and folks, if you're listening right now in the saloon, I recommend both of Matt's books highly right now to everyone listening and watching, and also your third book, which, by the way, I've noticed, little pump for you. If you go to Amazon.com, and you can go in there and you can purchase Matt's book in advance. But that said, I've done things like probably, I'm sure you have too. I've picked up books at the store, and I've read the back cover and the dust jacket, and I thought, hey, This is a nice premise. I kind of like that. And then you get to the meat of the book and you realize the damn author can't write him or himself out of, like their own damn will. So, in other words, you find out that their writing is what I call bidirectional. It like sucks and blows. The syntax is bad. The sentences are clunky. They can't seem to find that happy medium between like dialogue and exposition. And I have to tell you, that's what I found as the biggest difference with you. And I can see that's why you got published right to hardback. When I read the book and I looked at the premise and I started the first couple of pages in the bookstore, I bought the book. And I was not disappointed in the least. And I don't purchase books in hardback anymore unless I really like the author. And the funny thing is, I can name at least 4 thriller authors, then I'm not going to name them, whose writing is really, I consider them to be overrated, and your writing is not. It's like you were genuine on 2 levels, that of a writer and that of the requisite experience to write your books that you do. I find your polish impressive, especially in a first book and a first author for a relatively new guy. And I just have to get that off my chest up front. And obviously, that's why Atria Books published you. But I just had to say that because so many other times when I bought books that sound good, they're not. They're crap. They're written by people that can't string a sentence together. And that is not you.
Well, I appreciate that. In fact, it's kind of funny because I've always been a grammar guru and a bit of a wordsmith.
Good.
And so, but I do not have a bachelor of fine arts or a master's in creative writing. How I actually decided to write is kind of a funny story. I was sober for 6 months. My wife and I were on vacation, and I was reading a boring book that had been recommended by Stephen King in, I believe, Entertainment Weekly. And I got so angry and frustrated. I think one person got shot in the whole book. I turned to my wife, and I said, I can do a better job than this. This is awful. And I obsessed about it for a year, and I'm the kind of guy who has a conversation in his head running at full speed all the time. I'm the kind of guy who thinks about what I'm going to do to the neighbor who doesn't pick up after his dog, or the guy driving, 50 and a 15 in a school zone. I'm that guy. So I'm like, you know what? Some of my dialogue in my head is really good. So I obsessed about it for a year, and then I wrote down a 5-year plan on a whiteboard, and I sat down and I started writing, and that was it. And I knew what I wanted to write, and I wrote it, and I sat down, and here we are 7 years later, which sounds like a long time, but in the publishing world, it's not. I'm fortunate that I landed at one of the best publishers in the world for this genre. Emily Bessler is my editor. She created Vince Flynn. She publishes the Brad Thor series. Those
are big league guys. Big league guys.
And so, and I've had those comparisons, and I'm very fortunate every time I get them. My first book, Overwatch, was nominated for the Barry Award for Best Thriller overall, not just Best First Not Thriller, but Best Thriller overall for 2016. I'm not sure, they haven't announced nominations for 2017 yet, but things are going very well. I can't complain. I'm very fortunate. Readers seem to respond to it, especially the characters, and it's like I said, I created Logan. I know the opening scene of Overwatch is Logan West is emerging from a relapse blackout. Been there. I didn't never relapse, but I'm emerging from a blackout as a recovering alcoholic. Trust me, I know what that's like. So I just basically I did the simplest thing you can do as an author, which is write what you know.
Bingo. I couldn't have said it better myself. Folks, we're listening to Matthew Betley. He's published by Atria Books. He has 2 books to his name right now, Overwatch and Oath of Honor. He's got a 3rd coming out next year. We're going to have to take a little bit of a break. Thanks for listening. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you eever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Catholic is stupid.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
The Bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're listening to Matthew Betley, and the first thing that I have to say to Matt right off the bat is, are you pressed for time, and do you have to jam, sir?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Anyway, we're speaking to Matthew Betley, who is a thriller writer. He is published by Atria Books. He has 2 novels to his name right now. The first one was Overwatch. The second is Oath of Honor. And Matthew has a particularly interesting background, and this is something that I haven't really released to anybody these days, but Matthew and I share a little bit of something, and that's the bottle, and I've had some problems with that for years because at the end of watch, we would do customarily, because I started being a cop in the 70s. That's when we had choir practice. And so your character, Logan West, I relate to, and yourself, I relate to. That's what made this thing real for me. And I don't really talk about this all that much. I've had my own little personal struggles and my own little demons going on. And I think that's why sometimes the people that are damaged can recognize the damaged. That having been said, in your book, Logan West in Overwatch, he kept Iraq and the Middle East from erupting in a massive mushroom cloud thanks to the goodness of Kane Frost. So in Oath of Honor, Logan's job is to retrieve the dreaded One Ring. It's a device that can literally take over any orbiting satellite. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn by saying, was there anything in particular that informed you on this, Matt, that you can talk about?
Not that I can talk about.
Okay.
Okay. Because I actually, I still do work for the government, and it's kind of funny. I'm kind of forbidden to speak about certain things. And it's not like I do something super cool or anything like that. It's just there are very specific federal ethics regulations that I have to abide by as long as I'm still employed by the government. So, but I intentionally stay out of the classified realm in my writing. Now, the things I write about, the things that I talk about, organizations, those are all very real, especially those organizations in Oath of Honor. But I intentionally stay away from the classified realm, even if I may or may not do something. It's just a lot easier.
You're right. Dare we ask what government agency you work for?
No, that's something I can't even go.
Okay.
It was just, yeah.
Okay. Now, you said your writing was inspired by Matthew Riley. Were there any other authors that you admire, either in this genre or other genres?
Well, when I was a kid, I was a big Tom Clancy fan. But for me, I actually hadn't even read any of the current authors in the genre when I started writing. I didn't know who Vince Lynn was. I didn't know who Brad Thor was. And Brad Thor send me hate mail. And because I sat down and I was so busy with life. I spent 10 years in the Marine Corps. I have a family, a job, and I sat down to start writing. I basically sat down and started writing what I would want to read. And I am a huge Matthew Riley fan.
Perfect.
Kind of going back to 2000, and he's this Australian action thriller writer. And I wanted to basically write something like I wrote, but with his kind of pacing. And that was it. That was the only rule that I set myself. Is I wanted to write these huge, wild action sequences, some that are 60 pages long, that make you feel like you're right there in the thick of it. And so that's kind of what I set out to do.
Well, that's the one thing that I appreciate about your books, the verisimilitude, the fact that, when you mention a particular type of weapon utilized in a particular kind of way, I know that it comes from someone who knows all about that kind of thing, who has worked on various ranges. I'm sure you know lots of operators in the field. And that's one of the things that I have to say that I really appreciate about you. Now, authors, all authors... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is, and in fact, I still I own a bunch of firearms. I actually went shooting with a buddy of mine and with the Marine Combat Shooting Team over the summer, and I held my own. I mean, I used to be a weapons instructor. So, yeah, I have a lot of fun with that stuff. But I will also say there are some people, I mean, Brad Taylor's another great thriller writer, and he is fantastic when it comes to weapons, especially because of his background. So, yeah, I'll put it this way. I'm really good at certain things, but I try not to get too technical, put it that way. I know how weapons perform. I know the difference. I know the ballistic, all that kind of fun stuff. But I try not to get too technical in my books. But I want it to be realistic. Put it this way, if you ever read somebody, here's a great one. If you ever read a novel and somebody's got a safety on a Glock, you just put the book down.
Yeah, that's it.
Just stop right there.
You're done. Sorry, get out of here. It's funny because one of the first things that I sort of encountered you with was over Twitter. I used to be the range master for my department, and on Twitter, people were talking about the guy that was deported 5 times, and then they came back with a not guilty verdict on that. And I said, "What the hell is going on?" They seem to think the jury seems to think that these guns just arbitrarily go off. Well, it's a Sig Sauer P239 that the BLM guy had, and that was stolen, and they don't do that. And that's kind of how I met you. And
I have a Sig Sauer P229 Enhanced Elite, and that's a single and double action, depending if you cock the hammer back. And so if the hammer's forward, it's impossible for that weapon to discharge. It's impossible, if it's decocked. So. Yeah, I know. That's just a whole. Without even getting into the politics of that fiasco, that whole situation is just gut-wrenching, infuriating, exasperating. You name it. It just makes me crazy.
It's very, very disappointing.
At least it makes it very easy for me because San Francisco's one city I can take off my 1,000 places to see before I die list.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I wanted to work for SFPD, and I stayed and lived in San Francisco for a while. And I was on a ride-along with an SFPD inspector who said, "Are you a member of Knights of Columbus?" And I said, "No." He said, "Go somewhere else, small boy. This is not going to be the department for you." And so I took him to his word. I have to ask you, authors have their own sort of regimen when they write. I know a guy that writes at night. There's another guy who writes only in the morning. Some people have to be like totally isolated, and some guys like to write with music. What's your regimen when you're into a book? You said you just started your 4th novel. So what's your shindig when you want to get into your writing?
Well, I have a very busy daily life, so I literally had an hour of free time, and I sat down and I wrote the prologue for book 4 because it was already in my head. So for me, I actually don't use a lot of outlines. I actually don't create an outline. I know what I put it this way: when I had this idea to be an author in 2009, and then finally sat down to do it, I bought a leather-bound book that I was going to use for all my notes, and I think it has like 4 pages of notes for 3 novels, and that's it. And it's just, but my actual regimen is I write when I can because I have a very busy home life as well as a job, and I work out every day. I do all this other stuff. But what I'll probably do now for a variety of reasons is right in the evening, even because I'm up at 5, I go to work, I come home, I work out, I spend time with family, and then other things take over, and so that I write when I can. But the way I write is I actually don't even feel like an author in any way, shape, or form. I sit down on my computer. I already have like the whole story plotted out completely in my head.
Wow.
I know where things are going to take place. It's all organized. And then I put on a musical score by like a great composers of modern time, like Hans Zimmer, John Williams, Brian Tyler, all these great movie scores. And then I literally see the action in my head. I hear the dialogue. I feel the emotion. And all I feel like I am is a scribe. All of a sudden an hour's gone and I got 3 pages. And that's it. It's really that simple. I mean, I heard Vince Flynn was the same way. And I know there's another author who writes with Class Hustler, Boyd Morrison. He's the same way as well. But that's it. I mean, it's really just that simple. I next thing you know, time's gone, and I got words on a page.
Folks, we're talking to Matthew Betley. He is the author of Overwatch and Oath of Honor. He's going to have a third book published next year, and he's working on his fourth right now. I have to ask you up front, I've budgeted for as much time as you have. If you want to speak till the top of the hour, that's fine. If you have to go, but I think it's only considerate that I ask, what's your schedule like?
Yeah, no, I'll go. I can go for another 15 minutes.
Okay. All righty. Just wanted to make sure. When plotting your book, some people say it's all about the writing and then editing. I don't edit so much. And then some people say, it's all about, I put it down, but now the cool thing is I really get to edit. Do you fall one way or the other on that?
So here's how I view. I have a very holistic approach to myself as a writer. Like, I view it not just as a creative process, but also as a business. So I view editing as another step in that process to improve the product that I'm putting in front of people. So I love editing. I will also say that I'm very proud of the fact that in 3 books, I don't think I've had anything cut out of any of my books.
Wow.
I've had a couple of things like tweaked here and there, and so a couple things changed and moved around, but I haven't had to cut anything. So I very much enjoy the editing process because it allows me to make it better. Even if it's just a slight tweak here or there.
If you could meet anybody from history for a day, who might that be? For example, I'd love to meet General George Smith Patton. Just to tell him, hey, dude, you were right about the Russians. Is there anybody in history that you thought that it would be pretty interesting to meet?
Maybe Da Vinci, actually. Leonardo da Vinci, just because he's such a fascinating figure, and to see him do and create the masterpieces that he has, I think that would be pretty wild.
Okay, now you already mentioned that your newest book is going to be entitled Field of Valor, and that Logan West is going to be returning then, and I think you said it's going to be released in May of next year. That's right around Memorial Day, isn't it?
Memorial Day. Yep. Yeah, 22 May, I think 5 or 6 days or 4 days right before Memorial Day. And that was the plan. Initially, my books were coming out every March, but they decided, especially with the way sales have been, and to basically put me in the big boy, big girl summer rotation right before Memorial Day.
And since you're here, is there any possibility of revealing any clues as to what Field of Valor may be about?
No, absolutely. So with Overwatch, Overwatch is really kind of the origin story for Will Logan West and his right-hand man, John Quick, who was also his platoon sergeant from his force reconnaissance days, and how they end up becoming part of an FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, to stop Kane Frost, whom you mentioned earlier, from triggering a major conflict in the Middle East. Oath of Honor picked up 2 years after that. I actually introduced 2 new characters, which I get a ton of feedback on, especially Amira Cerrone. And I won't go into detail because I don't want to ruin it for anybody.
Okay.
And what I will tell you is Field of Valor picks up 6 months after the events of Oath of Honor.
Okay.
And they're trying to uncover more of the organization that is responsible for manipulating these global events over the past several years that have sucked our protagonists into their myths. So,
is there anybody of the female bent that Logan West might be having his eye on in the near future?
Well, if you remember, Logan is still married to Sarah,
right,
his wife. So I will say that they have repaired their marriage.
Okay,
which is key, especially for the beginning of Field of Valor. But it's the other thing it's really kind of funny because I write these huge action sequences.
Yes.
But everything I do is for the development of my characters. I like putting my characters in these situations to see how they would react. And even though I really write roller coasters, it's all about the characters for me. Everything else is secondary. It's about my characters, the dialogue, and the relationships. So even though they go through hell, they're always evolving, and I think that's important.
Do you have any particular story arcs that are coming in the future with regard to Logan's good buddy John Quick? Anything that we might not know about him, or any particular places that he may be going in and of himself?
No, but I know he is a big time fan favorite, and especially his sarcasm, which is just vicious, and that's just pretty much how I am. But he is now he's going to be in the thick of it for many moons to come. Although, as you know, like in real life, not everybody walks away always. But I've also introduced a couple new characters in Oath of Honor. But I also have some neat surprises planned so that people. I was just telling somebody this today that there are Easter eggs that I refer to, like book 1 and book 4. I have characters coming from book 2 back to book 3, and it's really I'm actually thinking about doing a little bit of a puzzle, just to test the real fans to see if they can pick up all the Easter eggs I put in the books, referring from 3 to 1 and 4 to 2 and things like that. Because I like the idea of the whole story being interconnected, and even though each book should be able to stand alone, it's one big story arc that continues to evolve.
Are you pretty much convinced that you're going to stay in that genre, the thriller genre?
For the foreseeable future, absolutely. Again, I don't see myself writing a Nicholas Sparks romance novel anytime soon.
Okay, well, yes, certainly not that. In terms of your novels, I think the basic question is, are you going to take Logan West off, a series, 4, 5, 6 novels, or are you thinking about branching out? Would there be like a series of, your favorite character, the fans' favorite character, like some John Quick novels, or some branches from your world that you created?
Yes, I've actually considered that. I view the whole. I've thought about it for probably 2 years now. In fact, I have an origin story that I would like to do for Amira Cerrone. I already have that plotted out in my head as to how she becomes what she is. Same thing with Cole Matthews, the other character that I introduced in Oath of Honor. But yes, I have considered that. The way I view my fictional world is it's like a huge amusement park, and each section is kind of separate, but it's all interconnected. So yes, at the end of my career, I like to look back and see that I have a full amusement park with different sections, but they all connect. Unless I totally do something crazy and change genres and create a whole new series or new characters. Right now, I'm just happy to take it one book at a time, 1 year at a time.
And so what you've said, I don't know. All I can say is for a guy that seems to be a relative neophyte in this business, you've picked it up and you've hit the ground absolutely running. You mentioned that you regard this as a business, and I think that's an amazing viewpoint right off the bat. So having said that, as a business aspect of that, are you thinking about, okay, 1 book a year? This is my goal, 1 book a year.
Absolutely. And that's my goal. I just don't have the cycles in me to do more, and I'm not sure. And 1 book a year really works. That's the production cycle that Brad Thor is on. That Kyle Mills, who writes the Vince Lynn series, is on.
Right.
That's really the way H does it right now, is 1 book a year. And it's plenty of time to build anticipation, and it's what works right now.
I think the thing that I have to say about you is the fact that it seems as though, and correct me if I'm wrong, even before you sat down and began to pen your first book, it seems as though you already had everything plotted out. You had your first book plotted out, your second, this is what I want to do, this is my time fashion in which I want to do it, these are the publishers that I want to go to. I find that remarkably insightful that your plans were already there. And like I said, it's like you hit the damn ground running. And already 2 books published, and folks are thinking about a possible franchise on you in film, although I don't say that's necessarily true. But anyway, you see my point. All I can say is I suspect that's due to your discipline from your background. Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate. It also has to do with the fact that as a recovering alcoholic, I'm sure part of me psychologically feels like I'm making up for lost time. And I'm not, a lot of new authors are like 30, 32, 33. I'm 45. I got into this business late because I never wanted to be an author, yet here I am. And I'm ambitious about my goals. It is brutal these days to start in this business. You can't break out the way that Brad and Vince did because the market really is saturated with a lot of talented authors. So setting yourself apart takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time to build a following that will continue to buy and spread the word year after year. But I'm very fortunate that I have a total A team around me, from my editor, my publicist, my agent, my publisher being, the bigger publisher being Simon & Schuster, which owns Atria and Emily Bessler Books. So, it's just a process that takes time. But I'm very confident that we're going to get there, and that's always actually been the plan. Because, this is what I want to do. And based on feedback, apparently the books don't totally suck.
Oh, hell no. Not in the slightest. Like I say, that's why the hell I buy you in hardback. You're one of about 5 or 6 authors anymore that I purchase in hardback. In reflection, though, what would you say is one of the biggest things that you learned about stepping into the world of professional publishing?
Oh, you have to have thick skin, and you have to have a plan B, and you have to be able to deal with rejection. If you can't do any of that, don't even bother, right? Because I tell people, the first, just to encapsulate it, I wrote the first draft of Overwatch over 18 months and 8 days, and that was because of life and working and doing all these other things.
Okay.
And I think I even rewrote the first 10,000 words based on feedback of a #1 international best-selling author named Christopher Wright that somebody put me in touch with. And this was long before I had an agent or anything. But, I got encouragement. I also got very constructive feedback, which was awesome. And it took 18 months, 8 days to write it. It took me 6 months to edit it.
Wow.
Then I finally got feedback from my first readers who looked at me and said, okay, so someday I'll say I knew you when. And that was like the first response I got from the first book. And then it took me, after that, another 15 months to get an agent. And then after that, it took us another 15 months to get a book deal. And getting an agent feels like winning the lottery, because at the time, I only submitted it to 93 commercial agencies. They each get up to like 2,000 submissions a month, and they're looking for reasons to say no to authors. And we would get rejection after rejection. And then once I had an agent, then publishers, it would be rejection after rejection. I mean, it's a very cutthroat, brutal business, and you have to be thick-skinned, and you have to have a level of perseverance that is almost like superhuman. Otherwise, it can be very disheartening. I mean, trust me, it's like an emotional roller coaster. And even now, I still feel, I was just telling somebody the other day, I still feel like I'm grinding because I'm not where I want to be yet.
Matthew, tell everybody where you can be found and where you are on social media, your websites, etc.
Yeah, my website is MATTHEWBETLEY.com. I probably need to update that. Every day you can see me running my mouth sarcastically about who knows what, movies, video games, politics on Twitter, which is just at Matthew Betley. And then I also have a Facebook page, Matthew Betley as well. Pretty easy to find me in any of those formats. The books are available anywhere and everywhere. I think Oath of Honor still is only available in hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. The mass market paperback for that comes out in April, a month before the hardcover of Field of Valor comes out. So, and by the way, my narrator for the audiobooks is fantastic. It's an actor from ABC's show Scandal named George Newbern, who plays Charlie, and he is phenomenal as Logan West. So if you have any listeners who prefer to listen, I mean, George is just amazing. And I'm just very fortunate that I've actually got to know him a little bit, and he's fantastic. So,
folks, we've been talking to Matthew Betley. Would you consider coming back to the saloon when your new book, Field of Valor, comes out? Or unless, maybe,
absolutely.
Maybe you just want to vent about, I don't know, bad enchiladas or rude baristas or why the hell they can't fix the roads in your neighborhood. Anyway, folks, we've been talking to Matthew Betley. He is a twice-published author, a thriller author, who wrote Overwatch and Oath of Honor. He's got a third book coming out, Fields of Valor. He's writing a fourth book right now, and I have to tell you sincerely, thank you ever so kindly, sir, for appearing here in the saloon. You're on Eastern Time, and right now it's damn midnight, so thank you ever so kindly to you. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Take care, sir.
Oh, Mark.
God bless you and your family.
Pleasure, believe me. All right, thank you, Mark. You too.
Thank you, sir, and good night.
Good night.
Wow. That was a fabulous... Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't know if you were still there.
Oh, I am. Anyway, thank you, folks, for listening. We've got to go to a break, and we'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reverb Common Sense, and you're listening to SHRmedia.com.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that was a hell of an interview. Now, customarily, authors, large-type authors like Matt Betley like to speak about a half hour or so. And I want to thank him up front for two very important reasons. Number one, he devoted an entire hour to speaking here tonight. And I greatly, greatly appreciate it. What a wonderful blessing that was. And number two, the dude lives on the East Coast, okay, and he hung up at midnight. So, okay, that shows, wow, thank you. I really appreciate that. If it's, I really do appreciate it because a lot of people, when you speak to authors, etc., or other personnel, they want to be spoken to during the day. They're not particularly interested in speaking live, and sometimes you have to go back in and edit things. I much prefer speaking to people live to get their reactions of how they really feel, what they're thinking. And again, I really have to thank Mr. Betley. Matt, thank you for your time. I really appreciate, my God, you took an hour here. And back to politics, because that's what we do here in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. And thanks to the people that are in chat. And thanks for listening tonight, either live or in podcast. White Mamba's in chat, Mary Brockman's in chat, and a host of thousands of others, literally thousands of others, so much that my chat room went down. Okay. Hey, anyway, remember we were talking about CNN and fake news, etc., and how all of a sudden that this story about WikiLeaks, and my God, Donald Trump was colluding with WikiLeaks about Russia, and all this crap came from the Kremlin, and how absolutely over-the-top wacky the left-wing media went over this stuff. Well, what did they sound like when they did that? News. Breaking news.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin. More emails, more problems for Donald Trump Jr. and the Russia investigation. CNN has exclusive new details about a message sent in the final stretch of the 2016 campaign.
Now, remember, as you listen to this, that they were going to have to take it all back because, frankly, this was unmitigated bullshit.
Offering access to hacked WikiLeaks documents. A previously undisclosed effort to reach Donald Trump himself, his son, and his inner circle just weeks before the election. This comes, of course, on top of other new evidence of follow-ups to the famous Trump Tower meeting between Don Jr. and a Russian lawyer. Follow-ups that he had promised when he had promised there weren't any.
Right, and then they throw up a picture on here of Donald Trump Jr., and there's like frowns and there's shadows over his eyes because anybody knows that the Trumps are shadowy creatures and they only zap around at night. This is, talk about absolutely breathless. These people are breathless and unabashedly, they have no shame.
Get over to CNN's senior congressional correspondent, Manu Raju. Manu, there's a lot that you have gotten in the past day plus. Lay out your new reporting today on this effort to give Trump access to WikiLeaks documents.
Well, Kate, this email on September 4th, 2016 was...
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about the real thing that happened from the intercept. Here's what actually happened. There was one small problem with this damn story. Facts. Oh, facts, those damn little niggling things, that's a terrible problem. So basically everything was fundamentally false. And in the most embarrassingly way possible, we were talking with Matt Betley about hyperbole. Oh my God, was this crap ever hyperbole? Hours after CNN broadcast its story, and the thing about CNN, of course, is that when they do this and they think, oh, I've got you, Donald Trump, I've got you by the gonads now, they're going to hype it over and over and over and over. And then the Washington Post, then they pick this stuff up. See, it goes over social media, And then they pick it up. And if a tweet goes out about this, then it must be true. So then everyone on the left decides that they're going to retweet that tweet. And that's pretty much what happened to it. The Washington Post reported that CNN got the key fact of the story wrong. Well, wait a minute. Well, no, that can't be right. What was wrong about it? Well, remember they said the email was dated September 4th. That's what CNN claimed. But the problem is it was dated 10 days later, September 14th, which means it was sent after WikiLeaks had already published access to the DNC emails online. So rather than offering some sort of special access, air quotes, special access to Trump, this Michael J. Erickson guy, whoever he was simply some random person from the public encouraging the Trump family to glance at the already publicly available DNC emails that WikiLeaks, as everybody by then already knew because it was in the ether, it was in the ozone, and anyone could read it in public. They'd already publicly promoted. In other words, the email was the exact opposite of what CNN presented it to be. So do you wonder, ladies and gentlemen, about fake news? Do you wonder, ladies and gentlemen, why it is that you're handing all this crap to Donald Trump on a plate in your attempt to be absolutely breathless to claim that you finally have the evidence linking the evil Donald Trump to Russians and to that evil Vladimir Putin? So how is it that CNN ended up aggressively hyping such that absolutely spectacularly false story? They don't say. And they're probably never going to say. Many hours after their story got exposed as false, the journalist who originally presented it, congressional reporter Manu Raju, now that's the guy that you just heard on the cut. The female handed it over to him, and he took it and ran with it. And then he finally posted a tweet that made the correction. So CNN's PR department then claimed that multiple sources, and that's air quotes, multiple sources had provided CNN with the false date. And so Raju goes on CNN in muted tones to note the correction ever so seriously, explicitly claiming that two sources had each given him the false date on the email, and also making clear that CNN did not even see the email, but only had sources describe its purported contents. Wait a fucking minute. Is this what passes for journalism? So I can go up to anyone at the Washington Post or CNN as an anonymous individual, and if what I tell them fits their meme against Donald Trump, then I automatically become an anonymous source, and then no one decides that they're going to do any background of who I am, where I came from, what may be my motivation for having done so, because we know people have motivations for doing all sorts of things. We're emotional little creatures. And so this guy, these people, CNN, they could have gone to WikiLeaks themselves and done what is called research and backgrounding. And perhaps they could have decided, maybe we ought to go to WikiLeaks and research September 4th or September 14th or around the day of September 4th and see if we can find the precise emails to which this guy is referring. But that was not to be. And that's what passes as journalism today. Here's another thing that passes for journalism today. Oh, I've got so much stuff and so little time. We, of course, know that we had the bomber, the Port Authority bomber, that turns out that he was from Bangladesh, and he was on this chain immigration. So his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather from Lithuania or Estonia, or actually from Bangladesh, came here, so it was only the logical conclusion that he should be here too. And it turns out that he was inspired by ISIS, probably their Dabiq magazine, because Al-Qaeda has their own magazine called Inspire. Woohoo. And I'm surprised. I am surprised. This guy's a former taxi driver in New York City. And essentially what he did is he had a pipe bomb that went off prematurely and essentially blew his gonads off onto the tile of the New York City subway. That's kind of a bad image that will be emblazoned in your brain housing group shortly when you go to sleep. But he wanted to be the first successful suicide bomber in the United States and thought that by walking down into the subway during rush hour, he would be precisely that. So what does that tell you? ISIS-inspired people are here, whether they are directly linked with ISIS or not, and that's their goal, to get out into a public foray, a public venue, and blow themselves up in the name of Allah. They are here, and they are now. It is only by dint of the fact that this guy was a fuckwit and couldn't assemble a pipe bomb sufficiently to save his life. Well, apparently it did save his life. But he won't be having children in the near future, as far as I can tell. He's a former taxi driver. Now, what do we know about the taxi drivers who... Oh, and he's a Muslim. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget to say that? How sad of me. That's not good journalism. Oh, wait. That's the same kind of journalism that's in all of the articles that I've read so far about this guy, and they've not identified him specifically as a Muslim. And I'm sure that you find yourself absolutely brain-glazingly shocked, I tell you, because of that aspect. So what do we know about taxi drivers? Many taxi drivers in New York City. They can park their taxi wherever it is that they want 5 times during the day. They can pull out their prayer rugs, get on the trunks of their automobiles, which they do. If it happens to block traffic, there's instructions to NYPD not to ticket them. And they genuflect towards Mecca 5 times a day, leave their shoes on the concrete, and make their prayers. And when they're done, they get back into their car, and whether they were blocking traffic or not, double parked, triple parked, it is immaterial. NYPD is not to target these poor boys. So, remember I said that there really wasn't anything as a lone wolf. And now these days when I hear the phrase or the 2 words lone wolf, the first thing I think of is we're going to be finding that he was a known wolf. I believe fervently in the next couple of days, with a little bit more investigation, it will be uncovered and discovered that this guy was likely known by either local authorities or the FBI, and for whatever combination of dimwit reasons, decided that they really weren't going to do anything about this guy. And also, the meme is going to come out in which this guy, it will be revealed, or even later when they happen to talk to him, if he ever gives an interview, will say that he was inspired because Donald Trump decided that he was going to put the embassy for the United States from Tel Aviv into Jerusalem, and that really is what inspired this guy to cork off. Except he wasn't really successful on that. But make no mistake, these people are here. They are in the United States, and we're one screw up away in the intelligence and local law enforcement and federal law enforcement community from this guy or a series of guys getting together and deciding that they're going to conduct either more of these suicide bombings or something similar to another 9/11. We have to be successful every damn time. They get to be successful only once, especially if you're talking about WMD in any event. There were some events that occurred this past week, past couple of days, and if you recall from last week, I went off on a bit of a rant, a bit of rantatiousness, new word, about Donald Trump, the dossier, and what's occurring in the United States. And I said to you then, as I say to you now, this is all inexorably linked together. And I'm going to provide some more stories for you tonight that will prove that, and I'm going to write a post about it, but I may as well Bigfoot myself right now. I am in the belief that we have hard expectations of a soft coup. I believe that there is a soft coup occurring in this country. And it involves the Department of Justice. It involves the Federal Bureau of Investigation and many other alphabet agencies. Never in my life have I been so embarrassed to say that I used to work for the FBI. I was a sworn U.S. Marshal. Thank God they're not involved in this stuff. And I fervently believe that the people that are involved in this are the deep state actors who have been there for many, many years. And they still lean left. And they would do anything for Obama or anything for a leftist. And the people that are on the upper echelons of the DOJ and the FBI, the chiefs, are incredibly suspect. The Indians, the line-level agents on all these sides, I believe them to be essentially honest women and men who want very much to do their jobs properly, with some exceptions, like the lovely Mr. Strzok. We'll get to him perhaps a little bit later. But first, you may have had this particular event go over your brainial, your wheelhouse, your brain housing group, and it didn't really connect with you. Let me attempt to make a connection, and that's this. There was a federal FISA judge who recused himself from the Michael Flynn case. And you may ask yourself, why is that important? Does that mean anything at all? There's a judge by the name of Rudolph Contreras who recused himself from that case surrounding Michael Flynn, and people were trying to understand, well, why is it that seemingly out of the blue, this judge would attempt to recuse himself from the federal case? Well, some folks did some investigations at the conservative Treehouse and a few other people, a few other places. Politico wrote, President Donald Trump's former national security advisor Michael Flynn will face a different judge to be sentenced than the one who took Flynn's guilty plea to a felony. False statement charge last week, court records show. Judge Emmett Sullivan was randomly assigned to take over the case after Judge Rudolph Contreras recused himself. So if you do a little bit of digging, which is what the American media maggots refuse to do, as I just displayed a few minutes ago, they're lazy, they're incompetent, they're not inclined to dig when it doesn't meet their agenda. But what people managed to dig up under this is, oddly enough, Judge Rudolph Contreras. And it's on the damn internet. You know, this wonderful thing that you can go to in your favorite search engine and input some information if you want to determine some facts or figures. Judge Contreras is one of a very small group of judges who are FISA court judges. There's 14 of them, and that's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. Now, do you remember about the dossier? And do you remember that last year they went to the FISA court to get a warrant which started the whole thing about Trump during the campaign? And it's my contention that they achieved a FISA warrant for Trump et al. Based upon the dossier, which has been proven to be unmitigated bullshit. And the reason that this particular judge decided that it was a good thing to possibly recuse himself is he may have heard that case on that warrant. And he could have been the one who either made the direct decision to grant the warrant or perhaps advised another judge after consultation that this might be something good to do. You see how things are inexorably linked. I believe you do. Then let's go into we'll get back to this in a bit, because Jeff Dunitz, who was on the show for a while, he writes at the lidblog.com, formerly known as Yid with Lid, a Jewish author, and he'll tell you all day long he's a Jew. We'll get to him because he happened to pen a very good article today that I became aware of. In the meantime, remember Uranium One, and everyone signed off on that. And everyone who signed off on that said, well, we thought it was a really good idea to give 20% of our uranium mining over to Russia. Which begs the question, Russia, Democrats, Russia, Trump, what's the difference? But now it seems to have come out this week, and here's a headline: Top Senator expands probe into Obama-era Uranium One deal and says he was misled. Well, wait, no. Weren't we told exclusively that everyone knew exactly what they were doing and that no one was misled, nor would anyone on the left during the Obama administration do anything to attempt to mislead anyone about this excellent deal to give 20% of our uranium to Russia? By the way, Russia controls the bulk of uranium produced on the planet, and it's produced in Kazakhstan. And this wouldn't be anything similar to Russia attempting to corner the uranium market, would it? No, that can't be. A top Republican senator has expanded his investigation into an Obama-era deal that gave Russia partial control of the U.S. uranium supply, claiming he was repeatedly misled by the Obama administration about a Russian company's ability to export that material. No, say not so, BZ. So, I am saying so. Senator John Barrasso, Republican from Wyoming, chairman of the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, fired off a letter Monday to the heads of the U.S. Energy Department and U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission seeking an extensive list of documents. What would they be? And what does he want to know? He wants to know more about the controversial sale of Canadian mining company Uranium One to a subsidiary of Russia's Rosatom nuclear company, and specifically how uranium under its control made its way out of the U.S. Wait. Stop. Didn't the Democrats, CNN, MSNBC, the alphabet media agencies, didn't they all say, weren't they all bleating, listen, no uranium left the United States. That is an absolute falsehood, to which we are discovering that too falls under the category right over here. See? First category under A, and under A it says bullshit. So that's the category under which it falls. Beginning in 2012, Uranium One exported U.S. uranium by piggybacking as a supplier on an export license held by a shipping company, Barrasso wrote. Except that's apparently not how the process was explained to him when he first raised concerns, insofar as, why is it that we would want to grant access to an imperative material in terms of creating fissile materials themselves, uranium, to what is potentially a bad actor and someone who has not consistently placed loving huzzas upon the shoulders of the United Snakes of America? Gee, is there a potential problem here? No, that's not how the process was explained to him. Back in 2011, then NRC Chairman Gregory Jaczko assured the senator that the companies did not hold a specific NRC export license and would not be able to export uranium from the U.S. without one. Yet, there's this little spot in the universe, in the digital universe, called thehill.com. And they reported last month that while the NRC never issued the license, memos show it did approve the shipment of yellow cake uranium from the U.S. mines to Canada in 2012 through a third party. The same report said the Obama administration later approved some of the material to go to Europe, and that the approval involved a process with multiple agencies. But wait, there's more. Oh, is there ever more? And as I said, I'm going to do my level best to assemble it together in a post. I hope to have it done by Thursday for my Thursday show. Let me tell you a little bit about my Thursday show. As a matter of fact, we've got about a minute before the break. This is BZ's Author Week. And I had on earlier tonight Matthew Betley, who was kind enough to be here live with me from the East Coast late at night, because he's a busy guy. And for God's sakes, he went to bed at midnight, if he actually went to bed right after he hung up, because that's what he went up to midnight talking to me tonight. And he says he customarily gets up at 5 o'clock. So, Matthew, sorry about that you're only going to get about 5 hours sleep, maybe even 4. My apologies. But he took it upon him, and he was kind enough to do that. So I really appreciate the time that thriller writer Matthew Betley took with me tonight. Thursday, as a preview of my show, I'm having I'm having a second thriller author come back, and I'll tell you his name at the break. And I'll be promoting him because I've already spoken to him, and oddly enough, he has a new book out as well. And when I come back, would it be surprising to you that maybe there's more to do with Uranium One, Mueller, and the dossier, and President Trump? Why, the answer to that would be yes.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on SHRmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk. The Sackheads Radio Show. Only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it again. Some of the best A-roll is going to be evil.
Like, what are you talking about? Just the last question really cut a couple seconds. Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Good point. Exactly right.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening, in fact, to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. It is Tuesday, the year of our Lord, 2017, December 12th. This is the final segment of the 2-hour Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being in attendance. Thank you for listening live. Thank you for listening in the podcast if you're doing that. And also thanks to everybody who happens to be in the chat room. My thanks again to my first guest tonight, who was Matthew Betley, a thriller author and author of Overwatch and Oath of Honor. And he'll have a new book coming out May of next year, and he is currently penning a fourth book about his major protagonist, Logan West. I highly recommend Matthew Betley. You should read him. I read him. I purchase his books. We're going to continue on now. There's a headline that goes like this, because, as I said, this stuff is linked, and you all need to know how it's linked and why it is that I say that we're currently undergoing the hard expectations of a soft coup against the current sitting government in D.C. on many, many sad and shocking levels. More Clinton ties on Mueller team. One deputy attended Clinton party. Another represented a top aide. More Clinton connections have emerged for members of special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation team amidst growing complaints from Republicans about potential bias inside the office created to lead an independent probe. That's the most important point. An independent probe, which it's turning out not to be. On Friday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Mueller investigator Andrew Weissman attended Hillary Clinton's election night party at the Javits Center in New York City. Well, he should be able to attend any party he wants, shouldn't he? Fine, but then perhaps he should be investigating something else other than a Republican, that is to say, Donald Trump et al. Fox News reported earlier this week that Weissman in January also praised departing acting Attorney General Sally Yates after she was fired for refusing to defend President Trump's travel ban. Now, there was no partisanship in that, was there? Sally Yates said she wasn't going to have anything to do with it. Was Trump's travel ban lawful under an executive order? The answer is yes. An unmitigated yes. How do we know this? Because of the recent SCOTUS ruling, the Supreme Court ruling, which let stand his travel ban until another day in court, overruling the 4th District and the 9th District. Imagine that. So that's how we know that his travel ban was lawful, but yet Sally Yates decided she was going to take it upon herself to make a stand and make a statement against the Republican. Boom. Gone. This guy, Weissman, was in league with that and thought that her stand was wonderful. And so he's on Mueller's team investigating Donald Trump, the exact same person that in public he doesn't like, he doesn't care for. That doesn't have anything to do with anything, though, does it, really? No, there's no sign of bias there. Aaron Zebley, a former partner at Wilmer Hale and a former chief of staff to Mueller, When he served as FBI director, represented Justin Cooper, a key figure in the Clinton email controversy. Cooper is the longtime Bill Clinton aide responsible for helping to set up the now infamous private email server. Cooper later admitted to 2 instances where he destroyed Hillary Clinton's old mobile devices by breaking them in half or hitting them with a hammer. Remember that. Jeannie Rhee, another former partner at WilmerHale, represented ex-Obama National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes, the Clinton Foundation, in a 2015 racketeering case, and Hillary Clinton herself in a lawsuit seeking access to her private emails. But there's no bias here in the Mueller investigation, is there? You've got, this is a quote, a nice quote, you've got Donald Trump being persecuted by Hillary Clinton's fan club. That's inequitable. Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican from Florida, a member of the House Judiciary Committee, told Fox News on Friday. Many of the members of Mueller's team donated to the Clinton campaign. We have a lot of highly qualified federal prosecutors in the Justice Department, and we could have found a bunch of them who didn't donate to either candidate, but that didn't occur, and that's troubling. And a quote. Here's a quote from former Justice Department official James Trusty. Name, Trusty. You might start seeing a real death spiral in terms of any public support for the investigation. Do you think so? Those political donations have been well known since the start of the Mueller probe. At least 7 of the Mueller investigators on the Russian meddling case have donated to Democrat candidates in the Democrat National Committee. What about Weissman? Well, he donated a combined $2,300 to the Obama campaign in 2008 and at least $2,000 to the DNC in 2006. Stop right there. I'm sure some of you are wondering, well, that's chump change. $2,000, $2,300. Okay, let me ask you, on your salary, do you have $2,000 to donate to your favorite candidate? Do you have $2,300 to donate to your favorite party? Because trust me when I tell you that these guys are not making millions of dollars, and yet they're placing their money where their mouth is. They're placing their money where their thoughts are. And yet these people are expected on the Mueller team, on the Mueller probe, to be completely unbiased. Neither political donations nor past legal work alone proves that an investigator is biased or unable to work a case objectively, but the revelation last weekend that another investigator, Peter Strzok, from the FBI, was removed from the Russian probe over anti-Trump texts has critics looking very closely at every bio. Mueller did not have to select attorneys who had made donations or even represented Democrat candidates, but as those partisan connections are becoming clearer, it gives an appearance of bias that could have been avoided. Former high-ranking Justice Department official James Trusty, who served under the Bush administration and the Obama administration, said on Friday. So this Mueller guy, whom everyone says they have complete confidence in, and they believe that he's going to conduct an absolutely stellar and unbiased investigation into Trump and the relationship with Trump, Russia, and the elections. Oh, wait. That was a while ago. Now there really is no limit to what Mueller can investigate. And apparently this great guy Mueller didn't background those investigators who were working for him very well. Or did he? And is that the reason that he chose? Because someone had to actively select these individuals for that team? Was it just it has to be one of these two. Is it just because Mueller is incompetent in his own personal backgrounding of these individuals? Or was Mueller purposeful in doing this? I'll leave that decision up to you. Then there's another story. This just happened, and the story after that is the one that I'm going to talk to you about that Jeff wrote, Jeff Dunitz from the Lid blog. Here's another article that says, wife of demoted DOJ official worked for firm behind anti-Trump dossier. Gee, dossier. Exclusive. A senior Justice Department official demoted last week for concealing his meetings with the men behind the anti-Trump dossier had even closer ties to Fusion GPS, the firm responsible for the incendiary document, than have been disclosed. The official's wife worked for Fusion GPS during the 2016 election. Okay, let's assemble this package for you now. Investigators for the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence confirmed that Nellie H. Orr, wife of the demoted official Bruce Orr, worked for the opposition research firm last year. The precise nature of Mrs. Orr's duties, including whether she worked on the dossier, remains unclear, but a review of her published works available online reveals Mrs. Orr has written extensively on Russia-related subjects. HPSCI staff confirmed that she was paid by Fusion GPS through the summer and fall of 2016. And I think you're seeing how some of this is dovetailing. Fusion GPS has attracted scrutiny because Republican lawmakers have spent the better part of this year investigating whether the dossier, which was funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrat National Committee, that's where the cash came from to fund the dossier, which was served as the basis for the Justice Department and the FBI to obtain FISA surveillance last year on a Trump campaign advisor named Carter Page. Now perhaps you begin to understand why it is, as the article that I read earlier, that judge decided that he was going to recuse himself because he sits on the FISA court. The House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes told Fox News in a statement on Monday is looking into all facets of the connections between the Department of Justice and Fusion GPS, including Mr. Orr. Until December 6th, when Fox News began making inquiries about him, Bruce Orr held 2 titles at DOJ. I told you about this last Thursday. He was and remains still director of the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, but his other job was far more senior. Mr. Orr held the rank of Associate Deputy Attorney General, a post that gave him an office 4 doors down from Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. The day before Fox News reported that Mr. Orr held his secret meetings last year with the founder of Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson, you can see the connections, and with Christopher Steele, the former British spy who compiled and wrote the dossier, you can see the connections. The Justice Department stripped Orr of his deputy title and ousted him from the 4th floor of the building that DOJ considers main justice, or he should have been fired. Now, with that in mind, let's toddle on over to the Lid blog site. And I got about 10 minutes left. This is an article, and it said, demoted DOJ official's wife obtained unusual license when she went to work at Fusion GPS. And you're going to see more curtains start to part for you. The latest story to break about the biased Mueller probe is that Nellie H. Orr, the wife of recently demoted DOJ official Bruce Orr, worked for Fusion GPS in the summer or fall of 2016. Actually, as the Lid blog published, there's a bit more. Why did she get a radio operator's license as she began working for the company that created the bogus dossier? Is that a coincidence? And some people seem to not think that it's a coincidence. Here's a summary from Fox News' James Rosen, who, if you're not reading or listening to James Rosen, you really ought to be. Investigators for the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, HPSCI, confirmed that Nellie Orr, wife of the demoted official Bruce Orr, worked for the opposition research team last year. The precise nature of Mrs. Orr's duties, including whether she worked on the dossier, remains unclear, but a review of her published works available online reveals Mrs. Orr has written extensively on Russian-related subjects. Is this a coincidence? HPSCI staff confirmed to Fox News that she was paid by Fusion GPS through the summer and fall of 2016. She has indeed written on Russia-related subjects, although what this particular author can find indicates more of an historical than a current events focus for her work. She seems to have had an emphasis on the Soviet era and its immediate aftermath. As Fox indicates, she was a history instructor at Vassar for a number of years. The most interesting aspect of her biography is that she has worked as a translator. Given her baccalaureate degree in Russian literature, her language faculty is presumably in Russian. Online sources indicate she did research in Russia in the late 1980s, which again would indicate a Russian facility. And they think Trump, is that Freudian? They think Trump is connected to Russia. We don't know how her spoken Russian is, but if it's functional, she looks like an ideal hire for what Fusion GPS needed in 2016, plugged directly into the DOJ through her husband, right? Remember him? And with a language facility in German, emphasis probably on the former. It's of more than passing interest in apparently after the stint with Fusion, she was working for Accenture, the management services giant, through October of 2017. According to Daily Caller, she was in the cybersecurity consulting branch and gave a talk on a noteworthy topic that month. She was employed at Accenture Security, the cybersecurity consulting firm, as recently as October. On October 3rd, she gave a presentation at the 2017 Financial Services Information Sharing and Analysis Center Summit on the topic, Ties Between Government Intelligence Services and Cyber Criminals, Closer Than You Think. A description of that event reads this way. The past year has seen cyber threat actors arrested, indicted, or identified in intelligence reports by U.S. and European governments that many intelligence experts believe point to potential ties between government intelligence services and cybercrime actors. In this session, learn about the drivers and mechanisms between state and criminal cooperation through a case study that will explore how seemingly ordinary cybercrime can be combined with strategic espionage. Now, she doesn't seem to have prior cybersecurity expertise in her professional profile, but Accenture has a number of revolving doors with federal agencies and some think tanks and consulting firms in the D.C. area, and it donates money to politicians right and left. And the company may be best remembered by the public as the one that stepped in without competitive bidding process to rescue the collapsing Obamacare website. Again, Nexus. Do you see the connections here? They don't seem to be with the Republicans. Imagine that. All of that it's got an unusual feel to it and doesn't seem to have much to do with the history and politics of Russia per se, except Mrs. Orr also obtained a particular type of license in May 2016. A heavily freighted month in the Fusion GPS dossier timeline, apparently just before or just as she went to work for Fusion GPS. She acquired from the FCC an amateur radio operator's license. The licensing document indicate it's the first one she ever obtained. The date of the license, is 23rd May 2016. Is it coincidence that she got her first amateur radio operator's license just at that particular time, and maybe her interest in amateur radio reached its zenith in the late spring of 2016, and she finally decided to do something about it? Now, there's a screen cap here. Her classification is Technician Group D, Novice, and she's eligible to use Radio Service HA, Amateur. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see, get out of that, According to the UK cited by news outlets like The Independent, Christopher Steele's contract with Fusion GPS started in May 2016. Sources familiar with Mr. Steele's work said Fusion GPS started in May 2016 and stopped with the election. And, of course, as the timeline that this author compiled in October indicates, the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC hired Fusion GPS through the law firm Perkins Cole in April 2016. Is it significant that the cyber intrusion on the DNC email system was detected on 29th of April 2016? And are people getting ahead of themselves? But one can obviously think of more than one reason why the use of amateur radio for communications with certain parties might have seemed like a good idea at that point to at least some of the people involved. Are you getting what he's saying? Because they may already have known that the email system was corrupted. Again, put all of this together. I got about 5 minutes left. This is a cut that I want to play for you. This is a little tete-a-tete back and forth, and it's not the first, and it won't be the last. With, let's see, this was Deputy Press Secretary, White House Press Secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and CNN Senior White House Correspondent Jim Acosta. And it went back and forth revolving fake news. And it's so good, I have to play it for you. Tonight.
I would just say, Sarah, that journalists make honest mistakes, and that doesn't make them fake news. But the question that
when journalists make honest mistakes, they should own up to them. Sometimes, and a lot of times you don't. But there's a difference. There's a very big... I'm sorry. I'm not finished. There's a very big difference between making honest mistakes and purposefully misleading the American people, something that happens regularly. You can't say, I'm not done. You cannot say... You can't...
I'm not done.
I cannot say that it's an honest mistake when you're purposely putting out information that you know to be false, or when you're taking information that hasn't been validated, that hasn't been offered.
Oh, wait, they're going to ask, hey, Sarah, can you give us any examples?
Any credibility, and that has been continually denied by a number of people, including people with direct knowledge of an instance. This is something that I'm speaking about the number of reports that have taken place last couple of weeks. I'm simply stating that there should be a certain level of responsibility in that process.
This was not
Brian, I called on Jim.
This is not the line of questioning that I was going down, but can you cite a specific story that you say is intentionally false?
Oh, don't open that door, Jimmy.
Was intentionally put out there to mislead the American people?
Sure. The ABC report by Brian Ross, I think that was pretty misleading to the American people, and I think that it's very telling.
Oh, she had one right on the tip of her tongue. Damn you, Jim Acosta.
That individual had to be suspended because of that reporting. I think that shows that the network took it seriously and recognized that it was a problem.
Sarah,
Jim?
If I may, though, I was going to ask a question about something
well,
else.
You used it on something else. Jim?
Sarah, if I may, Sarah,
Not today. We're going to keep moving, guys.
If I can ask about the president's accusations.
I'm moving to a different Jim. I'm sorry.
I know, but I didn't get a chance to ask the question that I wanted to ask, which is,
Jim,
can you just say once and for all whether these
Jim, I'm going to say once and for all that I'm moving on to Jim Stinson, and I'm not taking another question from you at this point.
Sarah, a question about...
Let me tell you what's happening. If you don't see it, Jim Acosta, because he's been badgering anybody, Sean Spicer, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, his job is to badger those people up there. Do you know why? I think Jim Acosta wants his own show on CNN, and this is basically he's playing for it. This is his tape for CNN to say, hey, look at me. I need a show. I need my own show.
Response to your attacks on investment taxes. If that's okay. I would like to ask the question.
It's just a rehearsal. Nothing to see here. It's just a rehearsal.
I had about these accusations of misconduct against the president. You said that he's denied them. Can you say whether or not they are false?
I'm not going to respond to
asking.
another question. Go ahead, Jim.
Some investors are saying the tax reform package.
Yeah. And that's how that goes, right? Folks, I got to thank you for being here tonight. It's been a great and an unusual and wonderful show all simultaneously.
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network. You want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional considerations by Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also, Pratt & Whitney engines thrust you can trust. Drinking, he said? Alcoholism, he said? Well, thanks to my personal KC-135 Kethel 1 refueling team, with which you know I will definitely be consorting at the end of this hour. Thank you so kindly for listening to me tonight. Thanks to Matthew Betley for being here in the saloon tonight. Thanks to everyone listening in podcast. Thanks for being in chat. I say to you right now, God bless, take care, be safe. Sackhead Show, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Be there.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.